Do you know the martial arts called Taido? In 1914, a man was born in Okinawa. He would later introduce a new martial art to the world, Shukumine Seiken. In 1933, as a young boy, he began training under Sadoyama Anko. Then, in 1937, he studied under Kishimoto Soko, stepping onto the path of karate. He honed his techniques, refined his body, and steadily built his foundation in silence. But the times were drifting toward war. In the final stages of the Pacific War, Japan created a one-man suicide weapon, human-guided torpedoes, designed for pilots to steer themselves directly into enemy ships. The mission was singular: to strike at the cost of one's own life. At the naval submarine base in Yanai, Yamaguchi Prefecture, Shukumine Seiken was stationed as a member of the Imperial Japanese Navy's Special Attack Forces. There, he underwent specialized training intended to bring him into close proximity with key enemy targets, culminating in a deliberate suicidal collision. He is said to have been placed on standby under secret orders. Destroy enemy vessels operating off the coast of Okinawa. According to his own writings, for Japanese soldiers of that time, being selected as a special attack pilot was considered the highest honor. To cast aside one's life without hesitation and perish on the battlefield was believed to be the ultimate expression of courage. When a person is pushed to the limits of human endurance, they attempt to sever their attachment to life. Yet in time, delusion and fear take hold, and the mind begins to fracture. Even so, they were given no space to confront such inner conflict. Meanwhile, in Okinawa, Shukumine's homeland, American forces had landed. The Battle of Okinawa unfolded as the only ground battle fought on Japanese soil during the Pacific War, bringing devastating destruction. This was known to Shukumine as he waited for his orders to depart. Amidst this, he sought a method of certain strike at close range. But the tide of war was overwhelmingly against Japan. Even special attack missions could no longer serve as an effective strategy. Then, in August 1945, the war came to an end. While waiting for deployment, he narrowly escaped death. In the mountains of Oita Prefecture and on uninhabited islands in Okinawa, he sought to heal the brutal psychological state left by the war through the practice of martial arts. Over the following decade, he began to reconstruct, from those invaluable experiences as a Toko, special attack pilot, the foundational forms that would later give rise to Taido. Over the following decade, he began to reconstruct, from those invaluable experiences as a Toko, special attack pilot, the foundational forms that would later give rise to Taido. What remained within him was not complex theory, but simple, desperate movements born from extreme circumstances. To spin, to leap, to twist, to drop, to roll. These were actions driven by raw emotion in the pursuit of fulfilling one's mission. Pure, instinctive movements in their most unrefined form. Shukumine believed that these simple motions were the very source of unchanging technique. He later organized them into 5 fundamental principles of movement: spin, orbit, change, twist, and roll. In 1948, in Yukawa, Ito City, Shizuoka Prefecture, he began teaching this new system of techniques to a small group of volunteers. Then in 1953 he founded Genseiryu Karate. From a young age, Shukumine had studied karate in Okinawa, and in his youth, he is said to have mastered extremely advanced techniques such as the six-stage flying kick and even clinging to ceilings. A public record demonstrating his remarkable ability came in October 1954 during a live broadcast hosted by Nippon Television featuring demonstrations by karate masters. When asked by the production team, "How many roof tiles would you like to break?" Shukumine replied, "As many as you have." "There are 34 tiles. Shall we use them all?" They confirmed. He nodded. There was no rehearsal, only one take. The stack of tiles rose higher than his waist. In the silence, his right shuto struck downward, and in the next instant, all 34 tiles shattered. Yet it is said that he directly struck only the top tile. What existed there was not brute force, but control of the body's axis and a chain of motion, the very principle he had pursued. Following this first televised public demonstration of karate, where he later performed a 35-tile break, Shukumine resolved to officially begin teaching. For nearly a decade, primarily in Tokyo, he conducted experimental instruction at universities, the self-defense forces, and corporate dojos. Traditional Okinawan karate had many strengths in its techniques, but Shukumine believed there were difficulties in training and instruction because it was not systematically structured in progressive stages. Genseiryu was created with the intention of boldly improving these shortcomings, and original kata were developed for teaching. Within Genseiryu kata, not only hand and foot combat techniques were included, but also new methods that involved controlling the torso, almost like capoeira, before executing techniques. These were innovations not seen in conventional karate. Veteran masters of the time likely regarded Genseiryu as not karate. Although Genseiryu's unique techniques were viewed as unusual within the karate world, they were well received among younger instructors of other styles. However, senior masters criticized them as not being karate, and these new techniques were not recognized as valid scoring techniques in competition. At the time, judging standards in karate competitions were determined through agreement among different styles. Therefore, it was only natural that Genseiryu techniques were considered invalid. Rather, Shukumine feared that the karate world was losing sight of the practical evolution necessary for martial arts. By this stage, Genseiryu had already begun to break away from traditional Budo. In Shukumine's conceptual framework, torso movement was redefined as changes in the body axis, and techniques evolved from the limited one- and two-dimensional movements of karate into a three-dimensional spatial system. Meanwhile, in mainland Japan, the karate world was moving toward unity among styles and the formation of the All Japan Karate Federation. Since most styles were technically similar and differed mainly in kata and instructors, such a federation could have greatly advanced karate as a whole. However, Shukumine's Genseiryu showed little interest in joining. This was because the concept of Taido was already quietly maturing, and also because key issues, such as the development and standardization of techniques, instructor qualification criteria, rank evaluation systems, and competition judging rules, lacked clear consensus among the styles. Under these circumstances, what had originally been conceived as karate in Genseiryu gradually separated completely from karate, and in theory evolved further toward the creation of Taido. In 1962, he began writing books. In November 1964, when the All Japan Karate Federation was established, Shukumine participated as a representative master of his school. However, after clashing with other styles at a meeting the following month, Genseiryu withdrew from the federation. After that, Shukumine completely withdrew from the karate world and resolved to create Taido, dedicating himself to this new martial art. January 23, 1965. He officially announced the new martial art, Taido. While based on Okinawan karate, it incorporated rotational and acrobatic movements, forming a three-dimensional martial art. Offense and defense were unified with evasion as a fundamental principle. At its core are 5 types of body movement. Sen, rotation, spinning like a top. Un, orbit, leaping and falling. Hen, change, tilting and shifting. Men, twist, twisting motions. Ten, turn, rolling along the ground. All of these were refined forms of movements born under extreme conditions. Competition is divided into 3 categories. Hokei, form, demonstrating changes in the body axis. Jisen, combat, one-on-one exchanges. Tenkai, expansion, one person facing multiple opponents. In the same year, the Japan Taido Association and the Taido Honin headquarters were established. As chairman and grandmaster, Shukumine devoted himself to its spread. Eventually, it expanded nationwide and then overseas. In 1983, the World Taido Federation was established. As grandmaster and supreme instructor, Shukumine went on to lead and oversee Taido organizations both in Japan and around the world. The characters that make up Taido represent the way of the body and the self. Bei refers to the inner self, while Tai refers to the outer body. Their union, Tai, represents the human being as a whole. And Do includes both the visible path and the invisible path of ethics and natural principles. Taido is the union of these elements. It comes into being when a person awakens to their own potential and acts based on ethical principles. It is not merely training for the sake of competing in strength. Rather, it is a martial art that fuses the philosophy Shukumine attained at the boundary between life and death with Okinawan karate, a way to establish oneself, share that strength with others, and contribute to society.
Japan B is a channel that randomly shares information about lesser-known aspects of Japanese culture, spanning across various genres.